everybody, and welcome to the Barcelona Investors Panel at Giant 2021, who for the first time is hosted in Barcelona. My name is Pilar Hernandez Hermida. I am the founder of iExpand and your moderator today. First of all, I'd like to extend big thanks to our sponsors and speakers, and especially to the City of Barcelona and the regional authorities for hosting us today. Ahead of us, we have an amazing agenda full of with a stellar lineup, headed by Francesca Wuttke from Almiral, Ana Bernardo-Gancedo from Amadeus Capital, and Daniel Oliver from Capital Cell. Together with a very dynamic Q&A, keeping answers short and sharp, we will try to provide you a bit of a picture of what the venture building and venture funding landscape looks like in this region of the world. For those of you joining live, please feel free to use the chat to ask any questions. We will try to answer online, live, or maybe by writing down if we don't have the time. So to kick off, I would like to ask each of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves. Francesca, would you like to go first?
Sure, happy to, and thank you for having me this afternoon. Hi, everyone. I'm Francesca Wuttke. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at Almiral, and my role is the end-to-end digital transformation of the company, so everything from back-office process automation through to AI-enabled drug discovery, software-enabled clinical trial solutions, and of course, trying to provide digital health and digital therapeutic solutions to our patients and physicians.
Thank you. Daniel?
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. My name is Daniel Oliver, and I'm the founder of Capital Cell. We are a company that utilizes equity crowdfunding to invest in early stage biotech and medtech startups. And we're operating mainly in Spain. We were in the UK for a couple of years, but we stopped being in the UK. And we now invest all across Europe, but we still haven't started to invest outside of Spain. But I'm here to tell everyone that we're open for business. Happy to conduct our first cross-border operations in 2021.
Last but not least, Ana.
Thanks, Pilar, and thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I'm Ana, and as Pilar mentioned, I work for Amadeus Capital Partners. I'm part of the early stage team, so focusing on pre-seed, seed, Series A, and we have a focus on deep tech, health tech, all things bio and life sciences, and also new materials. And I'm very happy to be here and hopefully answer all the questions that there are out there.
Thank you, everybody. As you can see, we are up for a treat in the next 30 minutes with such a stellar lineup. So to start off, let's set the scene. Digital health landscape could be practically any online or software-driven intervention, from patient consumer applications going up to precision medicine. By the way, that's a definition if anybody's confused. So depending on where you're from, you will have different angles as to what the trends are in your sector or in your focus areas of investment. So I would like to ask first with Ana, what do you see as the biggest trends in the digital health sector? And how does that translate into Amadeus Capital deal flow? So what are you looking for, basically?
Great question. There are a lot of different trends that we're seeing in the market. Obviously, with COVID, the digital health trend has also increased exponentially. One of the biggest trends would be the consumerization of health. So basically, patients/consumers are more actively trying to manage and control their own healthcare outcomes. So that is one of the things that digital health could bring forward. In terms of our deal flow and what we're seeing more, it would be that. It would be a lot of solutions that are going B2C directly instead of going through the whole sort of clinicians and workflows in that sense, which is obviously a little bit harder in terms of differentiation and how crowded that market is, right? But we are also seeing that in terms of not only well-being but also therapies, and more specific for different sort of conditions, very sort of verticals in that sense, and also for diagnostics. So bringing it close to the patients, more centralized in that sense. I'm saying all the buzzwords, but it's true. That's what is becoming more trendy in the market.
Thank you so much. Daniel, off to you. You are one of Spain's top crowdfunding biotech platforms, if not the crowdfunding platform for biotech. How do you prioritize your portfolio? Do you base it on trends, like there are some specific things like consumerization that Anna mentioned, or is more of a supply and demand type of balance?
We do have to consider two things when we publish a round. The first is, well, we analyze it in-house, with analysts, due diligence, etc., pretty much like any other investor. So we do follow trends, I guess, the trends of the market, a bit like, every other investor stopped investing in certain things as soon as a new technology appeared or has been following the trends on the market. Then we do that. So we evolve just like every other investor. We also have to acknowledge that we are not a fund. So we do a capital call for every single company. So every single company we publish on the platform has to be attractive. And that means that we have to slightly follow the trends of the investors. Gladly, no one knows a lot about biotech. So mostly there are no hypes that we have to follow. So I would say that we mostly follow the trends of what is interesting as an investment, pretty much like everyone else.
And could you be a bit more specific? What is really the appetite at the moment? Let's do examples,
I would say that people are investing a lot, or excuse me if the last year has been very intense, and my head might be still filled with concepts that are 2 years old, which is a lifetime due to COVID. But there's a lot of investment in oncology, for example. People are very interested in investing in immunotherapies, etc. You would imagine that there is a lot of interest for digital health investment, but there isn't. At least not necessarily in Spain. I would say that lately we have seen a lot of medtech. And for some reason this year we've had, out of 8 operations, 4 of them were medtech for cardiology for some reason. For some reason, we launched 4 cardiology rounds in February, and we called it our Mes del Corazón, the month of the heart. Anyway, that's what we have seen lately.
Thank you so much, because I think because you do crowdfunding, you have a pulse on the market to a certain extent as to what's the appetite, hence my question. So now let's zoom into more specific type of investment. So we are now off to Francesca. You run an accelerator based on dermatology, called Digital Garden. So what are the biggest trends you see in this field, and what is of particular interest for Almiral?
Yeah, thank you. So the Digital Garden, what we're doing is slightly different. We're looking to help early stage companies and provide them expertise from our internal teams. We have had, this is now our second year, our second harvest, if you will, of the garden. And what we're looking to do is find companies that are either focused on medical dermatology or could expand their offering and include that. So for example, a company that was focused on measuring insulin in a connected way that could never expand to dermatology would be outside of our scope. But we're also looking at companies that help through pharma processes. So that can be clinical trial management or a variety, or AI applications, a variety of other things. So the aperture is a bit wider than only medical dermatology, but within that space, what we're seeing a lot of is telemedicine, teledermatology. Obviously, Google earlier this week announced a huge deal for AI in the dermatological space, which we're keen to learn more about. The disruption's been pretty profound, I would say, in that there were a lot of companies that were in that space that may or may not see the light of day as a result of Google's huge footprint. We'll see what it means for pharma, for dermatologists, and most importantly for patients at large. But certainly COVID's drawn a lot of attention to teledermatology, and I have to say, having been in this space now for over 5 years, I guess, the first time that I used any sort of telemedicine platform was during COVID to do a scan of my son in teledermatology. So it's an obvious place. I think both AI and telederm are hugely important for within dermatology, simply because the dermatological conditions are so visual. But I think broadly there is an increasing shift and interest in digital health in general, and I see the future is really bright for digital health solutions, for digital therapeutics, which I think are increasingly gaining traction as well.
Thank you so much, Francesca, because you offer the pharma view, and then for those of you out there, it's not only patient-centric, so beyond the pill services, you can also help enhance the R&D, or augment the R&D, and the workflow processes, which are key. So now I might reverse the order of the panelists and start again with you now, Francesca. So now you're the first, because we're going to move from a sector view to a geographic view. Selecting the location, well, the right ecosystem can be a critical success factor for any startup. They can look for talent, R&D, market access, or access to funds, yeah? Francesca, as ambassador of Barcelona Health Hub, but also as somebody who has such a global background, having lived in so many different places and ecosystems, why Barcelona?
It's a very good question, and I think my short answer is, why not Barcelona? I think it's an incredible place to live for a number of reasons, but it's also an emerging and an under-recognized hub of innovation, both medtech, biotech, and increasingly digital health. So the Barcelona Health Hub is an opportunity to bring together corporates, health insurers, and startups and investors as well, but also to provide them test beds within the local hospital systems. And I don't remember the exact metric, but I think Barcelona is rated 3rd within Europe, and I think 5th globally in terms of a presence in digital health, which is, I think, really impactful. There's great talent here. There's great access to medical systems, to insurers, and I think the companies that I've seen that have been born in Barcelona and then have expanded out are particularly scrappy. And I say this in the best possible way, in that with very little funding and resources, they've been able to achieve really, really broad reach. I know Medictor has spoken earlier. I think there's companies like Sios and others that are really interesting and offering quite differentiated services, and I think we'll continue to see a lot from all of them in the near future.
Okay, thank you so much. Many companies joining us today, live or offline, are coming from the UK. So my next question is for Anna, because Amadeus Capital Partners operate in both markets. And how does Spain or Catalonia compare to the UK? Pluses, minuses?
Thanks, Pilar. I think there are more similarities than you would expect, and definitely what we have seen is a trend on the I'm not going to say the quality, but more the willingness to sort of create a venture in Spain, which is something that maybe in the UK there was the universities or maybe the entrepreneurs were less risk adverse. But definitely the opportunities and the entrepreneurial spirit has definitely increased steadily in Spain. And in fact, we have a portfolio company now in Valencia called Quibim, and we have invested before in iGenomics and Veritas in Madrid. So there's definitely a lot of technology and great science happening in Spain and in Barcelona, and hopefully that answers your question. I think I wouldn't necessarily say that there's a huge difference in terms of the quality of what we see in both markets, but maybe it's more about the frequency that we see the sort of venture and entrepreneurial drive happening from universities or other entities.
In a previous discussion we had, you mentioned some data point about the GDP investment that maybe you'd like to share it?
Oh yeah, of course. I randomly came across this graph this week. It was plotting the sort of investment rate or investment amount per capita, so the GDP of each country in Europe. And Spain is actually, it has a higher investment per capita than countries like Germany and Switzerland or Norway. So we are behind the UK, but we are definitely doing much better within Europe than maybe you will see as an outsider, or what your stereotypical vision of Spain would be. So I was very pleased to see that graph.
Thank you. I'm not supposed to maybe, but if I may add, Spain is a voracious adopter of technology, which is a metric that's often overlooked, but if people don't adopt the technology, there is no sales traction. So anyway, moving, we talk about the impact of the ecosystem or choosing the right ecosystem has, but I would really like to talk about impact from a different perspective, is the impact that the different technologies will bring to the population. And we know that everybody wants to generate good impact to everybody, but it seems that the money flows always go to the usual typical subjects. So Daniel, for you, I have a 2-in-1 question because it's linking to the geographic thing, but also to the impact. And the reason why I'm picking on you on that is because what I really love about your mission is that you mention impact several times, but you also mention returns. Yeah. So my question is, how did you balance those two dichotomies at times? Yeah, because money seems to always go one direction, and there are overlooked areas like fintech, or even talking to Francesca, pediatrics, for instance. Yeah, and since you were in the UK and also in Spain, what was the appetite from both market perspective in terms of risk and impact versus impact? Yeah.
I'm not sure I can compare markets because there is a huge difference in size between the UK and Spain, particularly when it comes to charities, etc., etc. As you know that I can't remember the figure, but another Cancer Research UK, for example, was investing from donations amount. I seem to remember the last figure that was in the hundreds of millions of pounds, and that just does not exist at even a fraction of the same level in Spain. But the impact investment has started to become a real thing in Spain, at least in Barcelona, greatly. I would say particularly through the work of one guy, the founders of the Ship2P Foundation. managed to create what I think is the first impact investment fund over 10 million in Spain. I think that the simple message that investing in certain things seems to be less profitable, but is actually more profitable, is not so far-fetched, and it's definitely grasping a lot of attention. I think that maybe there's a lot of people, and Anna mentioned that would not think this about Spain, because we seem to be a country that invests in short-term returns, mainly tourism and real estate. And actually, probably tourism is just a derivative from real estate. I think that the fact that investing in certain things, you get an immediate financial return, and investing in certain other things, you get a bigger financial return, but delayed in time, is something that has caught the attention of a lot of people. And I have to say that if Capital Cell has to be an indicator, from 2019 to 2020, we tripled in size. From 2018 to 19, then from 19 to 20, we grew by 70%, and this year we're growing by 70% again. This is maybe because we're doing things right, but I think it's because more and more people are deciding to devote a bigger part of their money to different type of investments. And I think that this is a growing trend in Spain, definitely.
And this is very important, because I think the pandemic, if there is a silver lining, has made people aware of how important it is for a country, for anybody, to invest in that. So I hope, the needle will move, because we still see that there are some very needed solutions that do not get enough attention, but, we'll try to push the needle in the right direction.
Can I point out just, I think it's a very positive thing. I like to use a sentence that I was told recently by an investment banker regarding their clients, people with a lot of money. He told me specifically that, well, since the COVID crisis, investment in real estate is not so profitable as it used to be. The people who used to invest 99% of the fortune in certain things now have to devote some money to other things. The first thing, when they lift their money from real estate and they decide, to venture out and risk it and go for another thing, the first thing they're asking is biotech.
Very, very good. Thank you. And very encouraging as well for all of us, in the sector. So we touched the dirty word of money, but this is a funding panel, so we need to put it on the table. And we mentioned returns. So this question is for Anna. You have, like Amadeus Capital Partners, have a very mixed bag of companies with different profiles. You have deep tech, you have digital health, some shorter term, some more product, R&D, long-term type of thing. So how important it is for you growth before the good market fit? How patient are you to wait for your early investments to provide some sales traction?
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. For us, obviously, deep tech and healthcare in general, or life sciences, our criteria of how well the companies are performing in our portfolio is completely different. Basically, we're talking about revenue and other sort of KPIs like that. I don't necessarily think that we would expect our health tech or life sciences portfolio companies to have any revenue when we invest in them. And in terms of commercial traction is something that maybe we could be looking into for a Series B. So Series B and beyond, you would have to have some commercial traction, even if you are in a health tech or life sciences environment. But as you mentioned, for me, the product market fit is definitely key in our investment criteria, even more than revenue or other sort of economic maybe factors in our health tech investments. market fit and also market traction as well. So like some market appetite, being able to create a perfect storm of the market wanting it and you wanted to get it out there. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, it does, because there's always a balance. I mean, there are many investors, but sometimes they say, well, we don't care about market traction, but then even prior to Series A, people want to see sales. So it's just for anybody out there to know that Amadeus is a very good partner to have. It will accompany you through the journey. But anyway, now for the last question, we are moving from market fit to investor fit. And we are moving to Francesca, because I think through your very amazing career, you probably have seen and gone through thousands of pitches of startup decks. And in line to, since we are the previous session to the next live pitch session, so what would you like to see more of or less of?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for a startup is to make sure they're solving for a real problem. So I always ask my team, and I always ask the startups when they pitch to me, make sure that you start out with a problem statement, something that's a pain point for your key stakeholders, and then make sure that your business models reflect that. I can't tell you how many times I've seen really cool tech with beautiful UX that isn't solving for anyone's problem. So there's no traction because it's cool, but a nice to have and not a must have. I would say do the gap analysis first, understand what the market needs, and then design your product accordingly. Make sure that you've decided who your stakeholders should be, and talk to as many people as possible and kick the tires on it. I think the second piece is, once you've done all of that, make sure that what your product has and your offering has is sufficiently differentiated from the rest so that your value proposition is clear. That's getting harder and harder to do because the space is getting really crowded. But whether it's niching into a therapeutic area, a geography, a specific stakeholder, make sure that it's clear, you can communicate it clearly. I think one of the best pitches I ever had was actually in an elevator. It was my first and only elevator pitch. And someone, this person was able to really define what they did, how they did it, to whom they were doing it to and for, and what their growth strategy was in literally the time it took us to get from the ground floor to about the 4th floor. So have it, really, really well buttoned down. I've seen so many times people who have great ideas and can't communicate them or can't do them justice when they communicate them. So I would say those 3 things: making sure you're solving for a real problem, you're communicating it appropriately, and your business model reflects the stakeholder you're going after.
Thank you so much. It's please take note. We're discussing before 50% of a lot of the products, they are not needed, and there's statistics there. So make sure first that you're launching something that's needed and then that's marketable. But with this, we are reaching the end of we'll conclude the panel. Thank you so much for your insights. I know we could only cover things, tiptoeing around, but maybe we have painted a bit of a picture of what the puzzle is of venture building and venture funding for the market. You're sad that this is over, of course. I got good news for you, because we are leading on, to the next session, which is the second live pitch for startups. So stay with us. And I don't know, we might have one. Probably no, we don't have a question. So thank you so much. We conclude and see you in 2 minutes in the next session.